I moved to Copenhagen last year. People are starting to figure that out. And one of the people I was introduced to by John Mason from Sideway, thank you for that, was Gregors. And Gregors and I met, and I can't remember how long, but it felt quite a long conversation. It was meant to be 45 minutes. I think it was 2 hours. Conversation about people, technology, hospitality, and the challenges we are facing. And now we sit here in the podcast studio in Copenhagen. And we sit here because, first of all, we have a partnership together, but also because I believe Monotree has a really, really interesting journey. And the problems they're solving for operators are more relevant than ever. They are all about how you actually, put electricity on your culture, I would say, and actually gets a framework on how you actually can build culture. And I think that's really, really interesting. You build something where actually you are hitting all the leadership disciplines that's difficult to master over a big organization or a organization where there's numbers of units and lots of people and so on. So really looking forward to dive into, the story behind Monotree, but also how we actually can use technology to power our cultures. Welcome to the show, Gregors.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you.
And Gregors, it would be great for context that we just start out with, the story behind you came to the epiphany of co-founding Monotree, and the story that led up to that, because there's always a story and a journey you go on to get to somewhere.
Yeah. Well, so I came from hospitality. So I studied financial crisis. You came out, you couldn't use your sociology papers for anything. And I started working at a restaurant. My mom had a tavern when I was young, so it felt familiar to me to go into that industry. And I just loved it. I stayed there for 4 years and worked sort of my way up and became daily manager and all of that stuff. And I think at a certain point, when you get older, you work when people are off, and it's like, I still enjoyed it, but there is also some things about working in hospitality that are pretty hard, right? Like long hours and working at night all the time and all these things. So tech has always been a part of my life too. I have had computers ever since you could have a computer, from Commodore to PCs to all of the gaming ones. So I was always interested in tech, and a lot of my friends had moved into tech as well. So the natural thing for me to go was, we were using Planday at the restaurant I was working at. And I just called them and I was like, I would like to work for you guys. And like, well, okay, there is actually some positions. And I started there, and I really liked that as well. It was a really good fit because I was still connected to hospitality. In some sense, I was working with the same people I knew, with an industry I knew, also other industries like entertainment and fitness and leisure and these things, but mostly hospitality. And I ended up in a position there where I was sitting with multi-site HR operators, like HQ for these large companies that was running many restaurants or different brands and all of these things. And this was around 2014, 15, and integrations was becoming a thing. APIs was becoming a thing, and people were starting to solve tech with more, solve issues with more tech. So sometimes they would have like a learning management system, sometimes hugely overpowered for what they actually needed. They would pay a premium for that. Then they would have a Dropbox with some files that people should download before that. Of course, a workforce management system for time and attendance. They would sometimes I even saw Trello, like for daily checklist, which is also hugely overpowered for most of the stuff you do in hospitality. And that was just some of the systems, right? So the problem you create there is all of these systems in and of itself are really great. They solve a problem, but they create confusion. So you have 6 systems as a part-time employee for a restaurant, and things just starting to go through the cracks, like who's maintaining what are we using this system for exactly, and also the money you're spending on unused tech. Like, I never liked when things are unlean, like when you bloat stuff up. I don't like that in my own company either. Like, let's see if we can use the systems we already have instead of just adding on other ones. So that started to occur to me that this is not being done right. So people are using way too many systems, and Monotree started dawning because people were using Facebook for private communication as well. Big companies plus 1,000 ones were using private Facebook, which is a GDPR issue. It's a privacy issue. Like, what if I don't want to be on Facebook? I can't be part of the company culture or communication. So the whole idea, like this app started to take shape that you should click it on your workforce management system, and it should take care of, first of all of the things that Facebook would do. So instant messaging, you should have your groups available, but then you should also take the stuff from the learning, so the onboarding, the learning, and then daily to-do lists and ability to do events and stuff. And it was sort of like a bunch of features bundled together, but it kind of makes sense because it was all of the high engagement features. It was all of the ones that people would use all of the time. And there were competitors, but they were not taking the tech seriously. That was the challenge for it. So I gathered up 2 people I knew that were very senior. We wanted to build this app, and they were like tired of working in their tech companies at the time. They work in consultancy, so it's deadlines, it's pushing subpar code really fast across the border. So like, let's build something from the ground up that's really great. And communication is actually a big challenge. So people sometimes like, it's just comms. Well, live socket servers, media going back and forth. If you build that from the ground up, it's a challenge. And that kind of ignited us because the competition, it was too slow. People won't use a comms app if it takes 4 or 5 seconds to open that app, or like just 3 seconds to go into your message, like chat room to write someone. They will just stop using it and start using WhatsApp. And then again, you have a system people don't use. Yeah. So that was the beginning of it. Yeah. To put a lean system that you can just click on top of your workforce management system that will take care of all the comms and operations and learning into one system.
It was quite interesting, and I haven't thought about it before. You told me the story before, but now you talked about you found these 2 people. So it's like a who question before really the what question.
Yeah, I knew them, but I also knew that in order to build this, like the thing with tech is that people outside of tech don't know. They think a huge team must make great tech. That's never the case. Think of it like a rock band. It's intricately connected. Everyone needs to know who's good at what, who's doing what. So the Beatles will make a better album than 50 random musicians, right? And with AI, that's even more exposed. So like you need real top guys to make sure they know everything. Sometimes people think, they're a huge tech company. Well, the backside of that is really long cycles going through different layers of product management and everything. Kind of similar to big companies in hospitality, right? It's really hard to make decisions when you're thousands of people compared to a small company. You can change your menu overnight, right? Yeah. Kind of the same thing. So I knew these guys already as my friends, I would say. Yeah.
Did you have an idea about how big the problem was, and you believe that you very quickly could build a good business out of it? Because at any startup, you go in a way, you burn everything behind you, and you go out on the open ocean, and that's where the real learning comes, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I think luckily we didn't think too much of how hard it actually is going to be. I think I come from, my dad used to have an indoor arcade, and my mom had the tavern, and so the entrepreneur thing was kind of in me. I think I've kind of been running away from that for a long time, but then we didn't know how much work was really into it. It was just, if we can get a paying customer, imagine that. Like that was the first one. If someone would pay for that, and our first customer was 1,500 employees, and it was like,
wow.
And that was kind of a birth by fire. And we also knew we were working our day jobs and building at night. Yeah. So you can only do that pre-family. You can. I could not do that now, for example. So the timing was pretty good because we had experience on how to build really good stuff. We weren't like off the academy junior developers and me not knowing what the product should look like and the problems. We knew that stuff. We had that experience, but still we were young enough to be able to work at night, like basically working like 20 hours a day. Yeah. Because you need that when you don't want outside funding. Yeah. You need to be able to go through blood, sweat, and tears. I don't know, we didn't cry that much, but still, yeah.
You can cry for yourself sometimes.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Actually, something I wanted to ask you, but let's take this, because actually you are, self-funded, as you say. You grow as the business are able to do. You're like what I call graceful growth. We have discovered when we interviewed lots of operators, and of course we have the lens on hospitality, but actually things then I actually zoomed out and then started founding the sort of businesses in other areas. If it's retail, travel, manufacturing, they have this what I call graceful growth. That actually means that you're growing in a speed that your organization and your financial situation can be mastered mostly by your own funding. But if you have funding coming in, you are very careful and selective about around that funding, because that can really disrupt your vision for where you're going.
Yeah.
Has that been something you decided from the get-go, you three, or?
Yeah. I mean, we at the beginning, we were kind of like open to like I've had many conversations with people that was interested in funding Monotree, and I guess more and more so when you become bigger, but it always comes with a trade-off, right?
Yeah.
So for us, I think it's the control. I mean, why do you start a company, first of all? Like, why do you start a company? I think people should ask themselves that question. And if you go the funded direction, it's because you want to make money, you want to sell it. That's fine. I mean, I think that's your reason. Yeah. Perfect. I can't judge your reasons, but like, we have the possibility of choosing who we work with. We can actually get the team together we want. We're good enough that we can actually make a profitable organization because we can run lean, we can be really efficient. And now I wouldn't know how I could get a better job than the one I have right now. So, and we are in complete control. No one tells us what to do, like what markets to go into, what sectors to. We have all of those decisions ourselves. And I think there is some pride into that. And there is some, like, I can look every customer in the eye and be like, yes, we're here and we're building this. We're not going anywhere. We're not selling this organization. We're not being half swallowed up and having to go into United States, not building for you guys anymore. Like, we're in complete control. And I think that's a large part of it. I mean, if someone came along and was like, "Oh, we'll do this, no strings attached," like maybe if you could see possibilities, you could do, but it's almost never the case, right? No, like it was never drawn to it, that kind of VC road and taking in loads and loads of money. No, it's never for us, I think. I think more people should ask that question. It's kind of weird that many of your friends who own restaurants, it's never the question on, like, you often hear that in tech, like, so what is your exit strategy?
Yeah.
How are you going to get out of it? And like no, we don't have a plan to get out of it, which is kind of weird because in all other industries, you don't ask that. Like, if you know someone who has a big cleaning company, the first thing you don't answer, like, it's not, what's your exit strategy, right? It's a tech thing. And like, I don't know why. Like, I guess it was a big bucks, quick rich scheme, something like that. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, and I've seen that actually. That kind of, you get X amount in, and then you X the business with this, and then within, I think at some point people said 3 years. I think it moved to 5 years now. And people are realistic. It takes 7 to 10 years to build a business. Yeah. But then we can exit at that price, and that actually came into restaurants, and I've raised money as well, and I could see how I got caught in that. And in the moment when you need the money to grow the business, it sounds like a great idea, and you think you've done your due diligence. But the problem is when you then put a group of investors together, they have different dynamics around them. And then that's where it really goes wrong, and it's not so graceful anymore. It's like you might not lost control of from a shares point of view, but you're spending a lot of time on managing something that's much harder than actually managing an organization. That's my own experience, at least. And I think you're spot on, and it's a really clever move. And I think and we've seen that in the organization we looked into. That was actually one of the main things that made them maverick and actually sustained. And one of them was Singerman's in the US. So that business has existed for 43 years now. Yeah. And it's now, the division from the beginning was that we will never ever sell. And then it became, we will never ever sell to Amazon because they have any big e-commerce business with Amazon really wants to have the thing, and they have had lots of it. And we're never going to franchise. And then become clear and clear on the route. And then now they are on this transition thing. They finalized that where it becomes employee-owned business because they wanted to continue as a business for the community. So that business is only in one area of the US, in Ann Arbor, in Michigan. and it has to take care of the local community and have jobs there.
Yeah.
And that's what the founders want to leave, the legacy, and they're in their 60s now.
Yeah.
And
that's so beautiful. And they can only do that because they control everything, right? You can make these decisions. Also, I think there's a whole different mindset when you build for the long run.
Yeah.
Like whenever we make these tech decisions, it's like sometimes my CTO and the co-founders and some of the senior devs, they'll be like, well, there is the fast way and the right way. And I'm always like, what's the fast way? Because I can be like, I maybe have a big customer or something coming in, but they're like, well, that's going to hit us in the tail after some time if we do it the fast way. So we've always taken the long run, always built everything ourselves. But now it's maintainable. It's super clean.
Yeah.
It's really, really running super efficient, like zero downtime across all customers. Yeah. And that is because developing something yourself takes maybe 3 months to build something. You could get it off the ground in 2 days by a third-party plugin or something like that, but you pay the price. Now, if you're VC funded, you don't have that luxury of being like, no, we're going to do the right decision. Yeah. Let that customer go. Like, we can't build it that fast. We need to build it the right way, right? And we can like, okay, it's fine. We get another customer. Yeah. But if you're VC funded, they have a gun to your head. We don't care. Like, just build that fast, but you have to maintain it. So I have to look these customers in the eyes over and over again. Yeah. My devs they have the problem when the bugs arise, right? Yeah. So they don't want to build bad stuff. We've never lost an employee at Monotree. So I'm really happy about that as well. But I think also the reason is because they get to actually build stuff the right way from the ground up. Yeah. And it's a different mindset. Like if you're VC funded, like devs come in and out, salespeople come in and out, people like they only think 1 quarter ahead, right? Just get this feature up and running. Don't care. Like go out, market it. It's great. Yeah. It's super buggy. It falls to pieces, right? But they don't care. No.
Yeah. Also because they want to see the right number on the spreadsheet. Yeah. They don't want to see probably the revenue goes up. It's the main thing. And,
they need another round.
They need a round, or they need to sell at some point. So and then you have that stress. So then you can't manage that. It's totally out of your control. Yeah. How long have you been on the journey?
We started building in beginning of 2018, I think, was the first commit to our GitHub base. My role was kind of weird in that because I was like, in the beginning, when the tech products come to being like, you don't really do anything, I was just watching them code and talking to them. Making sure we can do this when it comes out. But starting to prep on how am I going to talk to customers, never worked in sales. I'm customer success at heart. I think it comes from hospitality and being a waiter. I want to take care of the customers. That's actually what I really like, what I'm good at. But you have to wear all the caps when you start a company, right? So how I'm going to sell this product, right? How am I going to do this? How are we going to do financing, invoicing, all of that stuff? So I was prepping all of the groundwork for it. But we built for 1.5 years before we had anything that we could sell. Because you can't go MVP when you do comms, for example. It can't be like, it kind of works. Can you test you can do that if it's like a once a week reporting tool for one person. Yeah. You can go to market with something that's just like semi-working. Yeah. But when you ask people to install this on every single person in your organization's device, it needs to work.
You have one chance.
Yeah. So since 2018, building first customer on 2019, then a really weird year with COVID, and then steady good growth from there.
Yeah. And how many customers are you touching now, or how many frontline employees are you touching?
Close to 300 customers, around 85,000 users on the platform. Yeah.
And you're primarily focusing on Denmark or Scandinavia, and then you're now entering into the UK.
Yeah. I think it's a matter of we're kind of growing, it's not to sound cheeky or anything, but kind of growing out of Scandinavia if we want to serve the same kind of customers, right? If we look at the current customers we have, there's not that many we can keep getting. Sorry. So we need to go into another market, or we need to start selling to all kinds of other industries. Now, I think that's very dangerous because then your product starts to serve a lot of different kinds of people and organizations, and then it waters out, it becomes sort of nothing, right? So I think the future of tech is being even more specific. Then you can do that in different markets because there are some nuances. Maybe we'll get into that. There are some differences in the UK that we can address, that we can make sure that it's a really good fit, for example. But those differences are not as big as if we were trying to go big in retail, for example. If our main focus would be retail for the future, we would need to build totally other stuff as well into the product, right? So yeah, for the foreseeable future, we would stay in Scandinavia. That's our primary market in terms of revenue. We have customers in 18 different countries now, which kind of came in from referrals. But UK is by far our biggest like new growth market. Yeah, definitely.
And you mentioned earlier in one of our conversation, you had that angle. You wanted to improve communication. You want to gather everything in one place. You thought that was not solved yet. Is the issue actually much deeper than just a communication issue when you see people starting or they come to you to get their challenges solved? Because I guess they come with one challenge, and one of them could be, we need to improve communication to our frontline.
Yeah. I think communication is a deep problem. Like, I think it's kind of where people and ops and the whole organization meet, right? And it's kind of those things where the need is already there. So if you're not addressing it by a system, people are just communicating like in other systems. We see it's kind of, if you have a high engagement platform with us, like if you have 1,000 employees, it's not uncommon to have 15,000 chat messages going back and forth every week. So that's how much communication there is in hospitality, back and forth on everything, ops and people. Hey, can you do my shift back? Like all of this stuff is happening through chat and communication. So the need and the problem is always there. It's just being solved by people themselves with whatever tools they have available. So the question is more, are you addressing that problem? Are you trying to make it better? Now, I also think you have a wife, for example, communication is never done.
No, you can always get better.
Exactly. Like communication, you can always work on. So it's kind of, we're trying to solve basically an impossible problem. Like having perfect company communication does not exist. You can try to achieve as streamlined and as good communication as you possibly can, but I would never go out and say, well, communication is done. But by addressing it, by putting it out into the open and looking at it, I think it can really change how you actually communicate and the experience for the employees when you do that. If there a deeper issue, kind of relevant to that, I think you need to have success with Monotree, really. You need the intention of actually having a community, of actually driving culture, of actually giving your people the chance to come with their opinions, to listen to them. So now we don't try to convince people to do that. Like we just go for the ones who already get it. So like if we see an operator who it's not in their mindset, or like an HR organization where it's just like they just need to we don't care about the people basically, and they are there. We don't even try to sell to them. Like I wouldn't even know how to tell them about most of my features. I could maybe try to push to-do lists on them or something, but they wouldn't get it. No. So I think it's not a problem, but there is kind of, you need the intention first and foremost. And if you have that intention, the Monotree, like when you then put power to your communications, it's basically an amplifier. All tech, like this microphone, right? It's an amplifier. So like if you are really bad at communication and you're a really strict boss who writes caps lock, that's now in writing for 1,000 people when you do that messaging, right? If you have great culture and people commit, now you really put rocket fuel into that culture, right? So talk about the intention. And we sometimes we get like a new head of people or something came into an organization and they are trying to move that ship around. And that's a really interesting time to get into a company, because you're kind of the system that facilitates it. But I know there is also an intention behind this. So Monotree can kind of take the credit of a great transformation, but we're only the tool. It was the intentions behind it that drove it, right?
And I think it's really like anything in leadership. If your intention is that you see people as resources and competences, then you actually, it doesn't matter what system you get. No. You're still going to get, you may be amplifying the negative. So that's also might be why they don't switch on to a system and give the frontline the capabilities and information they need, because it's like this huge on control, top down. Where actually if you have the intention where you actually want people to lead themselves, you give them these tools. And I think that's really how I see it often as well. And I agree that really you need to have the intention of, call it putting people first, or culture is important to you. And a lot of people talk about that, but the real intention is seeing what tools to actually give your people to do their job well.
Yeah.
That's often what I've seen with the Maverick companies as well.
Yeah.
It's really interesting you said, like, you actually put it rocket fuel on your culture. When you did, let's take the example, we have the right intention. What happens then when you switch on Monotree? Because it has lots of different functions. There's communication, there's learning and development, and so on and so on.
Yeah. Oh, it's not always the same outcome, right? Like people get different values. People put emphasis on different features when you are a big platform. But I would say what always happens is people are more connected. Like there is always someone who doesn't like being on WhatsApp for work, who's like kind of not in the group. Or if you have scattered communication, it's really hard to control it or make sure everyone's there. So definitely you are more connected. So you get that branded front door. People can go in and it's easy, it's fast to use, right? So people will be more connected. I think sometimes an issue can be when you do like a comms app and training and learning. For some operators, especially, it's not as much now as it used to be, but people can see it as it's a nice to have, right? It's like we need our time and attendance because people need salaries, right? So that's like a need to have. We need a POS system so we can do the payment. Now, should we invest in a comms and culture and learning and some to-do list, like surveys, like all that? Is that really a need to have? And the funny thing is when we have customers that has great success, like high engagement and everything, that bought it as like, oh, this is really great. We should try this. And now they're like, they cannot understand how they ran their company before Monotree because it has become so central. Because I think once you have a place where your employees are actually at, like you should have an engagement that's at least like 60-70% of your employees should use the app every day. You should strive to do that. And it's actually our average user engagement. Sometimes we see it up around like 90%, even with 1,000 employees. And if you have that, you cannot go back to not having that. It's like if you can write out a news item on something important, you can put out a new handbook on a new policy or whatever it is, and you can make sure people actually see it and actually read it. Now, you can never go back to not having a system that can actually achieve that, I think. So it becomes a need to have. Yeah. It becomes one of your really go-to most important systems in the business. And that's honest. That's not a selling point. That's what we hear from customers.
Yeah, and I met a couple of customers, and soon we are launching an interview with Bjarke, who probably from Nordøst will be live from here, and he talks about as an operating system, you need an operating system to manage your culture, because then we're having this discussion, which also have with other guests, that like two things in the world we live in now, there's a lot of uncertainty, but there's two things you can control: the quality of the technology you give your people to do the job, and ovens and knives and all that, that's in your control. And then the quality of the relationship we have with our people and our customers. Yeah. That's really where your effort should be put. That's where the competitive advantage and the magic happens. Yeah. But we still need to do P&Ls, we still need to do bookkeeping, we still need to do payments. But really what you strategically should be using your effort on is that, because that's what's happening. Technology is empowering organizations, and how does you spend that time choosing the right technology to make sure you can free your people so they can build relationship with each other and the customers. And that's really what it's about, or giving them the tools to be able to do that. Yeah. Because I have always said it was about, putting people first. And we talked about the employee journey and all the technical bit, but I could see over the years exactly how to actually make them have great relationship with each other. That's your job as the leader. And it's a very different thing than just being task orientated. Yeah. It's the why, how, what, when, before. Yeah. Here's the task, here's the plan. Because in hospitality, we go to the task straight away. Yeah, very task oriented. You talked about a checklist. Yeah. We love that. Yeah, all the tasks are done, but the window is not clean. So there's something wrong. So there's something wrong with the why, the how, the what. Yeah,
yeah. These things will always be there. There are things that needs to get done, right? Like if your daily opening list, check. Like there's a lot of stuff that needs to get done. The managers has all of this reporting they need to do as well. But do you really dare to I think you always need to take that leap of trust. All leaders in all organizations need to trust people to actually do their job well. People want to do their job well.
Yeah.
Now empower them with the right data, the right to make the right decisions, right? So that's, I think, the whole future, if it will be integrated systems where all of this data is really live fed into everyone, and then trust them to do the right decision, right? I think that's the leap of faith you need to do in these things, because then you won't have to micromanage all of these people all the time on small subtasks and things like that. And you said something other that was interesting, like investing in the tech in terms of like the guest experience and stuff. But hospitality is only people.
Yeah.
Like it's only people. So investing in your people is investing in your guest experience.
Yeah.
There is no difference in that. Now, I remember when I worked at the restaurant, it's like, can you, if something happens, right? So like the steak is done wrong, or there's like sand in the mussels, all this stuff that can happen in a restaurant, you can turn that experience into a great guest experience who gives you a great review, who talks great about the restaurant, if you handle that problem immediately and you actually solve it, right? That's the people on the floor who can solve that problem and make that guest go away a really, really happy person, right? So your people are your guest experience.
Yeah.
And I think this is even more and more so. Of course, there are your quick eats and stuff like where you don't really expect the people, but still a nice smile when you order stuff. It actually means something, right? I think more and more so for me when and maybe a little off script, but anyway, like after my maternity leave with my girlfriend, the first time we were out eating, we went to a place and just the whole interaction, a really great waiter who just like totally understood the table. And I was like, I don't need to look at the menu, just like no allergies, just whatever you think like. I like Pinot Noir. And that was it. And that person just took care of us. Yeah. And that was like, this is what it's about.
Yeah.
Like it's about going out and trusting that person to just create a good atmosphere, give you a good experience there. But that can only be done if that person enjoys their job, if they're calm, if they're empowered to do so, right? You can't create that great experience if you feel like, oh no, I have to do like 70, like you have your boss mind in the background, right? Yeah. To create that setting. Yeah, that's what it's all about.
And it's quite interesting because there's been a conversation that comes up once in a while, sometimes natural, sometimes I ask the question, the lost art of hospitality. Yeah. And actually, when you put it that way, I can see also that you have to understand that it actually comes from the freedom you give your people to operate. And that's where the right tools can do that again. So you don't feel that you need to control things, because actually it's quite interesting because now I've hit the front line a bit myself again. And one of the things that became very obvious to me, because I've done other things in between and done the podcast and learned a lot, my little mini MBA, was actually that when there's a problem, people freeze.
Yeah.
Because actually, but what the customers want is actually you to engage in that problem and solve it. But the people don't feel, then they have to go and find their manager. Or they need to find out, how do I solve this? They don't even think about, and then you ask them, so how would you solve it if there was nobody around? And then they start coming up with suggestions. Yeah, that could be a good, that idea may be a bit too much, and then you can start having those conversations. Yeah. But again, like, you need to do that. That's the art of hospitality, solving the customer's problem when things go wrong. And of course, it's a smile and give them a good experience, but actually where you win most business and actually retain most business is also in restaurants or in tech or production companies, is actually acting very quickly when you get aware of a problem. But often the problem has to run all the way up to the top, before it's dealt with. And then we already lost the customer. Yeah. Because they don't have time for that. They just think, it tells me everything about this business. Yeah. They're not ready to serve me as a customer. And
it's funny, right? Because I completely agree with what you just said. And I think if you become good at that, if you can solve problems at a restaurant, which is a high-paced environment, like the chef might be hungover, you need to make sure he gets his coffee so he's happy, or else the whole night is going to go back, right? Yeah. Then comes in the new waiter. You need to make sure that person is up to speed and feels safe and feels calm. Your regular guest that needs that little extra care, you take that table. It's high-paced problem solving all the time. Now, if you become good at that, you can do any job after it, because I mean, you can really work in a stressful kind of, like, not stress in the bad sense, but like high-paced stress. Yeah. You can work in that environment. So like every single person I have hired for like what we call front of the house in Monotree, which is not the development side, has worked in hospitality. And I think I remember when I have my first office job, people sometimes were like, "Oh, we're so busy." I'm like, "No, we're not." Like, you have not tried busy in the same way, and I think that is just it's not to strive for being super busy. I don't think it's something to strive for in an organization, but having felt it can really help you get through, because there will be busy days. All companies have really busy days,
and pressure increase and deadlines and all that. But actually, you're much more in control than you are in a hospitality environment where food and humans are moving around all the time.
Yeah.
And actually, I think hospitality need to find out how they have less chaos. Yeah,
yeah.
I've talked a lot in the recent months about chaos.
Yeah,
and actually also creating chaos, like because they special leaders in hospitality sometimes I think they strive on putting out fires.
Yeah,
but actually their speed in solving a fire, because actually the speed I can solve problems and put out fire, they think that's the success.
Yeah,
but actually just create chaos around you. So you actually need to, that's also an element of actually moving a bit in, dial it a bit into the middle,
Yeah.
It's good you can do that, but how long are you actually going to make right decision if you're just on that high speed all the time?
Yeah.
And what kind of qualities are coming out of that decision?
Yeah. And it's about, I think it's about trying to nurture all of the systems behind that magical human interaction that is hospitality, right? So I usually say that I honestly think that good tech is like a football judge. So if you're watching a football game and you do not think about the football judge for 1 second, he's doing a great job.
Yeah.
You're watching the game.
Yeah.
So tech should be like that. It should work flawlessly, effortlessly in the background to create the right experience. As soon as sometimes it might be like a really magical experience when you think about the tech, but most of the time it just becomes habit. It's something, it just does whatever it does. Whenever you think about it, it's because it annoys you. It's because it's like, why is it slow? Why is it not doing what I want it to do, right? So I think...
Why is it wrong? Or,
And it goes not only for tech systems, but all systems, management systems and everything I think you create, especially in the service industries, is basically about giving people freedom within that room of interactions, right? So with the guests and everything. So if you're free in that sense and you're not trying to do weird stuff with systems in the background, you're in a good place.
I really like that. And it's quite interesting, again, what you're saying, that actually it takes the stress out of the organization, because then there is one place to go to find the answer. So where is the truth of the organization? Yeah. And I often think that's part of the leader's job. So it's like, it's great to have a vision, some goals, but actually, where do we actually give people the one truth they need of resource, answers? Yeah. Where do I communicate with my colleagues? Where do I get a shift? Yeah. All those things. There's maybe a employee handbook, but you have to bring that to life, because I'm not going to read the whole book. Nobody reads the book. No. So how do we bring it to life? And I think that's really interesting, how technology can bring the right element of the employee handbook to life, or whatever else you have. And I was thinking another thing, actually, one of the things I was thinking about, I had a conversation with somebody and I talked about how do you actually keep these important rituals. So when you found something that works in hospitality, how you run restaurant number 1, 2, and 3, how do you actually keep rituals alive across your organization? Yeah. Let's say you have 10 sites and 500 people. Yeah. And suddenly, how do you keep those rituals alive? And how do you take these, from a very normally 3D environment into the technology world?
I think involving people as much as possible, involving the team. I think when you do your own bespoke content on your culture, on what it's actually about, and you actually film the people in the organization, it becomes so much more fun and engaging to people to actually look at. So imagine if you're being onboarded in a new organization, right? And you only get a super boring legal handbook of 10 pages. We can simply see it in data. People just scroll through it. They don't care about maternity leave. I just started. I'll find that whenever I need it.
I'm 18 years old. Yeah,
exactly. keep it super relevant to what is this company? Who are the people I'm working with? What do I need to do in the very beginning when I get here? These are the questions.
How do I become successful in my job?
Yeah. So, having some of that like evergreen content that you update once in a while with where you actually film your own people doing this stuff, and you can do it with a smartphone. It's not a big production. It even, like, actually keep the production low because it gives even a more raw, real feel to it.
Yeah.
If you do that, of course, if you're a giant brand, probably you will do productions and stuff, and then keep sharing it. I think one of the learnings we have seen in Monotree is like, for example, if we have these auto notifications, let's say people are overdue with a course or with their onboarding, they get an automatic notification and it works for like maybe 50% of the people, but 25% of the people, like I assume 25 already took the course, and the last 25% of people, they simply need a real person to nudge them. They simply need their manager or someone from HQ to share it on a wall or something. Be like, hey guys, we actually put time into this. We actually see if you guys do it. It's a great course. You will learn X, Y, Z by doing it. Share it there. So like socially embedding all of this information and keeping it alive, I think is important. If it really runs great, people will do it by themselves. People actually help each other. So that someone has a question, another person will share that. You can find it here. And then you can be a little more hands-off if it's really great, but else you need to involve the managers in these processes as well. But I think creating technology gives you the possibility of doing stuff one time that you can then share again and again. That's kind of the beauty of most tech, right? So putting a little time in doing those videos, when you get a branded app, right? So now employees first experience, you get that branded app, it's your unique brand and everything. It should also be some unique content. You shouldn't overdo it. You shouldn't spend days and weeks building all kinds of stuff, but some welcome videos, like who are the other people, a few managers saying
who
hi.
is the founder? Yeah.
Exactly, all of this stuff.
Why do we set out, as you said in the beginning?
Yeah. But then also your SOPs and everything, right? Because all of these things are becoming more and more magical with tech. So we told customers, use videos. Like, don't do text. People love videos. So like you can explain a lot of stuff in a 2-minute video. Now, the problem was then when people, back in the days, people looked it up, they couldn't find stuff because they were, it's in a video. With a search, you would find it in text, right? Yeah. Now we transcribe all the videos on the fly. Yeah. So there's no excuse putting it in the video. The video is more fun and engaging. Now, if you ask the chatbot, it'll just answer whatever is in that video because it's transcribed anyway. Yeah. So use the video and use people in your organization is really a great hack for this to make these things come alive.
Yeah, and bring it to life for people you randomly see, like the founder is not in every restaurant every day. It's not realistic if you have a number of restaurants, but again, use that. And I think it's really interesting. I say often to the guests as founder-led restaurant business or hospitality businesses, take this into you. I will give it to you. Some take it and then use it in your organization because what you're telling here, they will probably not know.
No.
And that's in every organization. Oh, was that? Oh, and you can't tell the founding story enough because also it evolves and your understanding of it and where you're going. And it's a great way of using, outside things. You can also use outside things like when I lead a team, I'm very fascinated by the 1-minute manager because I think it's one of the most simple leadership books in the world, and it hits the 3 most important things to create psychological safety in organization. Yeah. And that's in principle also what I can hear you talking about. Yeah. It answers the how, the what, the who, and when in principle. And it does it by setting clear goals, catch people in doing the right thing. And you can actually, when you can monitor a platform, you can also find out people are doing the right things. I've seen that myself from McDonald's. Oh, that restaurant over there is actually using the tools we wanted them to use and the right thing. Now we can praise them and we can actually find out what's going on. And then, of course, correct when there's something off script. Yeah. But then it's about how you get feedback. You talked a bit about, you have to be very aware about how you communicate to make people feel they are engaged in it. Yeah. You talked about engagement rate of 60 to 70%. That's quite high, I would say, from my experience. Yeah. What is it that happens when you work with hospitality? How do you get to that? Because this is principle change management going on all the time. And if you can get 60 to 70% of the organization to actually go on this platform every week. Yeah.
One of the things is a kind of boring one, but that is make that tech as fast, easy to use, and reliable as humanly possible. Because that is just a great barrier. We have gotten a lot of customers who came from platforms because it's simply just too buggy, too slow. People don't trust it. So that's the first thing. That's the thing we make sure to take care of. That it's actually really, really easy to use, and it's just there, and it's just working. Now, it's the same. There is probably like your phone. At some point in your life, you had a bad phone.
Yeah.
And that like kind of annoyed you all the time, right? So make sure your app is not like that.
I had a Samsung, and then I got an Apple, and then I never changed back from Apple.
Exactly. And then I think as an organization, we talk about this a lot when we onboard our customers, which is the whole onboarding is changing more and more. It's not that much tech anymore because it's kind of easy. People get it. It's more like the consultancy of how to get value from this. What works for other customers. We spend a lot of time on that, and I think the role is becoming just that. We are consultants on how to ignite your culture, how to use these features to the maximum extent, right? And one of the things is make sure that your managers are really a part of this to begin with. Like, make sure that they're ambassadors for the product. So we always aim to have like, please let us have a manager workshop. Like, best case, a physical one. We can actually talk to them. And in that, I ask my employees as well, but I do it myself. I ask like, is it okay we talk to them about how they should drive engagement, that they should like also post funny stuff on the walls, that they should do memes on the walls, that they can actually make the communication in there fun and loose, especially if they have young people, a lot of young people working there, right? And it seems like, that's a weird thing to do, but think about it from the employee's perspective. Now, they have 500 apps on their phones. They have TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, and then the company branded app, right? If you're competing with their attention usually off work, because that's where you're like under work, they don't have their phone on, right? So you want their attention off work for some important stuff that they can check whenever they feel like. Now, if that app is constantly competing with super engaging, fun content on other platforms, and your company app is always like, hey guys, remember tomorrow you must bring like, yeah, it's fine. You need that information. But if it comes after, like last time I checked, it was a funny meme, or last time I was praised, I was tagged in a wall post because I did a good job, or my good friend from work was tagged and it was great. We all liked it and sang our praises or something like that. It just becomes a much more high engagement platform. And some of our customers even put it into a formula that is like every manager, once a week, they have to post a non-operations theme kind of post, right? They have to put something in there that is just unrelated. And it works. It's like, it's easy also if you have something important to say, or like, hey guys, this is not right. It's more nice that thing comes after good times. Yeah. It doesn't come like the fourth time in a row, because that's the other thing, right? You can sort of scroll through it and you can sort of see, oh, this is just, the communication here is kind of harsh all of the time.
Somebody frustrated,
right? Yeah. And people are getting, like, I think also young people are more sensitive to this stuff. So you need to be aware.
Yeah.
Onboarding is changing also. Like, it used to be, like, just get everyone up and running as quick as possible, as much information so we maximize the value. That was like kind of the old way that people thought about it. Now it's much more like, how can we make them feel safe? Like, fill out these forms during onboarding. How are you feeling? So they don't do silent quitting, right? Yeah. It's really about making people feel calm and safe for the first shift.
We also need to talk a bit about, AI. You mentioned before, AI helps to do transcription of videos, and there's lots of talk right now. Lots of people, within our industry, but also outside the industry. There's lots of focus on how AI is going to change the whole workforce and how we work and how we live. And it's probably one of the biggest inventions since the internet right now. That's what people believe. And there's probably some truth about that. Yeah. So what is your view on that? And also if we connect it down to the hospitality world from an AI point of view?
Yeah, big question. Well, I think it is the biggest change since, maybe the user interface. Like, I remember then my dad could all of a sudden, he could use a computer. Yeah. It used to be my computer because it was the command prompt, right? Yeah. But now all of a sudden with Windows 3.11, he could click on the buttons. And I think it's the same paradigm shift all of a sudden, right? You can just talk to a computer, it will do stuff for you, right? So I think this is a massive, massive change. I also think it is still very early in terms of adoption and how to actually use this in the correct ways. I see a lot of back to the funded companies, all of a sudden they're AI first, right? The AI came along and now they're AI companies. They're not. There's only very few that are really actually ground level building AI. All of us who are normal tech companies, we just utilize these models in various ways, right? Which doesn't make us AI companies, but it sounds better that you call yourself an AI company. So I think right now there is a lot of lazy AI going on. A lot of companies be like, oh, we built an AI agent, but that AI agent should have been a notification. Like if you had clean data, you knew that, for example, an agent that goes out in your platform and looks for overdue certificates. Like I've seen some of these in hospitality. I'm like, doesn't make sense. You don't need an agent for that. That's like loading up an 18-wheel truck to send a paper plane to someone. Like it's a brute force. It's bad for the environment. You're using so much compute to do an extremely simple thing. You could just throw that little paper plane with a laser to another person, which would be a notification, right? If you have clean data, you can use that cleanly. So when I call it lazy AI, I think it because a lot of people have bad data structures. They have things coming in, APIs, third-party stuff, and they just brute force it by calling something an agent you put on top of it, and you send an agent out and in like takes it 20 seconds to respond with something. That is the lazy part of it.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I think the next few years, it will blow people's mind how much you can actually do when it is utilized correctly.
Yeah.
When you have clean data to work on, how much of a difference it can actually be. I mean, the way we can prototype right now live on platform, we would load up Monotree locally on, and we can just prompt and prototype stuff. Usually it's full of security breaches and everything. So we can't put it into production because we're a SaaS company. Yeah. If you're private stuff, you can do what you want, right? Yeah. But the speed you can work at and the amount of data you can crunch and collect and give, I think the future of tech is going to be much more how and why and are we actually solving this problem that we're doing? It's not about, can we solve this with tech? It's going to be possible. And I think it's going to be why are you building this agent? Does this agent make sense when it comes down to it, right? So, because we don't get more time to use on our tech and our phones anyway. So I think there is a massive change coming. I think right now, a lot of the stuff I see is not true value. A lot of it, some of it are. There are some of the like, especially in forecasting and stuff, there are people doing a really exciting stuff that have done it the right way, operating with historical clean data that can now, to a kind of scary degree, figure out how much things are going to cost
in your schedule
and all of this stuff. So it will be very interesting times for us as a company as well.
And it's quite interesting as well. It actually is also, I believe, the opportunity for hospitality AI. Yeah, because there's the opportunity to really lean into what hospitality is, which is making relationships really matter.
Yeah. I think so too. I think, again, back to that football judge about having your systems run cleanly, right? AI should take care of all of the boring stuff so we can do the interpersonal stuff, which I think humans should enjoy. Most of us do anyway, right? I also think it's very dangerous to I've had some feature requests sometimes. People are like, can you just not that we can auto reply on, let's say, an onboarding feedback where a person is actually, hey, I didn't feel safe. I have a bad first shift. And could we just like have an auto reply AI on that? I was like, that's the worst. Like, why would you do that?
That's a notification of dimensions.
It's the same thing as like you do a LinkedIn post every month or something and then have AI write it. Like, that's the only thing you should maybe actually, I want to feel you. I want to feel your words and everything, right? So I think it's a weird layer to put too much AI into interpersonal stuff. I think we should keep that sacred and then let AI crunch all of the boring stuff and do all of the tedious tasks around it.
Yeah, I think it's very important to experiment with it, learn it, because you need to find the good and the bad in it. And there's definitely some leverage on saving time, I think, that can be done.
Absolutely.
But I think it's very interesting to talk about also what are we not going to use it for? Yeah. That's probably the question. Yeah. That's more important than what we're going to use it for, because that's very the easy use case kind of way. And also how are we going to use it in our organization? That's probably going to be evolving as you learn more about it. Yeah. Super interesting. What has been the most significant learning for you as a founder, business leader the last couple of years? The world is moving very fast, not just because of AI, but it's just been crazy since 2020, I feel.
Yeah. I think like after COVID and everything, like wars, AI coming, like I was like, first of all, you cannot predict the future. Like,
No.
just don't do it. Try to look maybe a year ahead. And I think also, I used to say like a company don't really have values. You just have the values that are sort of imminently there. That used to be my way of thinking about it, because we were a really small company at the time. We didn't have to talk about our values. But then when things get rough, or when possibility just become exponentially big, I was sort of like, well, you actually need to stay true to certain things, and you cannot just make this stuff up. I sometimes see companies that are like, these are our 4 values, and you're like, but these are the exact things this company is not, right? And they just try to be something else. But I think for us, it's about whenever like AI and these possibilities comes along, for example, or when competitors are doing something, we're like, what are we actually true to? So customers first, right? Really go that extra mile. Just keep being there for the customers. Like, never say no to a meeting. We don't care if the unit metrics doesn't make sense. This small customer really likes to talk to us. So what? We might be losing on money on this customer. Who cares? They might go refer another customer, right? Because they're like super happy with the service they get. So for us, it's about the people first thing is not just what we want our customers to achieve with the platform. It's also how we see our relationship with the customer. So really that extra mile in service, and then building everything yourself, because it's so tempting, like that control thing. So we can keep being Monotree, like we can keep being true to our customers. So these are sort of the core values that we can then navigate after when you have endless possibilities. Like, just never go down on the service. Everyone else is becoming, well, yes, we have an AI support agent. Everyone has that. Like, we're not going to fire. No, we're going to hire more people. We're going to go the opposite direction, go even more into consultancy, proactively reaching out, calling them, hey, you want to talk to us? We got great new features, like other customers using like this. People love that. They're like, yes, I would like a meeting. Like, I haven't, because people just operate. They don't look at the new stuff you build always, right?
No.
So you have to contact them and be like, hey, there's new ways to do this. We can see that you're using the old way. Check this out, right? So we go in the opposite direction there. And I think, staying true to that, figuring out what you really are, like what you have been true to from the beginning, really, and then stick with that in times of uncertainty, really. I think I underestimated that part for a long time.
It's quite interesting. I talked with somebody the other day, and he said, in the early days, we didn't need all that culture book and so on. And then we sat down to make one, and we, of course, did the mistake everybody. We started out, what values should we have? What we aspire to be? And then suddenly somebody in his team said, but what are we actually doing really well when it comes? What is it that we repeatedly do that makes us think, like you said, customer first? Like, we take that time. That's one of your values, sounds like. And actually focusing on, that's much easier then. And then you also come up with less, because there'll be like 3 or 4 or 5 things you do repeatedly again. And actually, it's very easy to remember, because it's just a mantra that's happened. It's rituals that happen from day one. And there's a value, a belief behind that. And then you describe them and share them and give examples on that. I saw Pizza Pilgrim did it really well in the UK, where they actually interviewed. I was part of that, where there was set up each employee. There was employees that was doing a value really well. So, and it will always be like that. You have 4 values. You will use maybe 60% of that. You do what you naturally incline to. That's also why you wanted to get hired there and so on. And they interviewed these employees on what they did really well. And it was really interesting to hear the employees version, and then you had the founders version. But in a way, it sticked. But it just brought it to life, as you said before. Use your employees to talk about these values, and thereby suddenly people, that's actually what is expected. Then now, customers first, that means, okay, they drop their fork. I need to react now.
And I think that it's a good experience for any company to figure out who they really are and how they differentiate and how you can actually position yourself, right? So you don't water yourself out and just do what everyone else is doing. You had Nicole on the podcast that I had the pleasure of talking to her myself, and she's really into that whole make people feel and understand your brand. I know she works high end, and it's maybe different from other like kind of quick eats and stuff, but still, I think it's a really just let them feel what it is you're trying to achieve, and then find people that you trust to bring that to life. And it's kind of, that is true when you hire, Like, find someone who aligns with these things.
Yeah. And I actually think it's even for the really, if you talk quick service restaurant and just take McDonald's, this is what they're really good at.
Yeah. Yes.
They get something in young people. I stayed there more than 11 years, and I didn't do that because it was the salary. It was because what was put into me, and I felt I was part of something special, and I could help them deliver that on the journey. Yeah. And then they gave me like skills I would never have been given anywhere else. Not even university could give me this leadership experience. I take away from that. So I think that's really, really important. It's actually bringing the marketing or the brand values to life in the business.
And I think McDonald's is really great at a lot of these things. Like we do have one of the big franchises, and they have the highest retention I've ever seen of any customer. They have like at least top 2 or 3 highest engagement I have ever seen. Yeah. Like they are really, really good with people. Yeah. Like, interesting how they do it.
Yeah, and I think they have all these really well-developed systems, and then they use them, and they have all these rituals around these systems, and that becomes like that. Yeah. I call it the flywheel effect. Just becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. If you follow this recipe, it's been spent more than 80 years now in McDonald's to figure this out. Yeah. And if you just follow that recipe and the reason why it works, and of course the intent you put behind the systems. The system is no better than the leadership and the intent you put behind things, even in McDonald's. So.
No, and good with the career paths, right? You can actually progress.
You can see a journey.
You can see, you can go here, you can go here, yeah.
And then they start thinking, I'm going to do that for a couple of years, and they're going to figure out, and then sometimes they, I've seen restaurant managers that have been 25 years for McDonald's. Yeah. Imagine the return of investment on that.
Exactly.
What is the one question, Gregors, you would have liked me to ask you, which I didn't, and what would it be, and what would you answer?
I'm not sure. I think one of the things I'm thinking about mostly, so this like I'm asking myself an open-ended question here, but like I think how we as SaaS companies will survive what I think is that blast of AI coming. Like I think that's something I'm thinking a lot about, and I think it's what I think at the moment is like you can build a lot of stuff yourself, right? And it's not at the level you can just go build a Monotree platform with a vibe code. We're not there yet, but like with a little team put together in 3 or 4 years, maybe you could start to get something off the ground. Like, and you could probably do that with all of your systems pretty soon. Like, so why would a customer pay us to solve that? That's like one of the things I can worry about. But I think people are always willing to pay a fair price for someone else solving that problem, doing it safely, making sure that it's developed, that it's maintained, and they actually come help you on how to use it, right? Because you trust me, as a hospitality organization, you don't want to run all of your tech platforms yourself. No. You wouldn't do anything else, right? But we are in a situation where you can actually do a lot of this stuff. I see a lot of our customers right now building quite amazing internal BI tools and stuff, right? They're vibe coding APIs together, and all of a sudden they get the dashboards they need, like from data from different providers. And so it is starting that whole trickle of people building themselves, right? So I think it comes down to we need to just be like, you can still go with Monotree. You get a constantly developing platform at a really fair price still, right? It used to be in tech, and you see that still, we will just raise the prices. You have add-on modules and all that stuff. I think the future is not going to be like that. I think SaaS companies will wake up to a reality where, yes, you can maybe raise your prices to keep up with inflation and stuff, but you cannot just go and keep bumping the price to these levels, because competition with AI will be a lot more fierce. So because we're self-funded, I don't mind it. I'm like, yeah, bring it. But yeah, I think it's going to be a different road. Like whenever we talk, like when I sometimes meet with people that are like veterans in the SaaS game, investment kind of people, they're like, you should do this, and then you can raise prices. You can, like, it's like, at the same time, they're like, you should use AI, but can you not see that AI will make that impossible, I think, in a few years, which is good for operators and people using the tech. Yeah. The competition will be fierce.
And I guess also it's really becoming really good at what you do. Like solving, as you said, have a solid system with no bugs.
Yes.
There's no exception. The quality, the standards of the quality of the tech will raise incredibly. And it's a bit like, if you want to be the best restaurant, you also need to be on your product, your service all the time, improving, or the best provider, whatever it is. And I think actually that it will help. If you use it right, it can help you focus.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, any business I run, I don't want to sit and build my own platform. I might do something where it doesn't give sense to buy a Slack or a Trello or whatever it is, but I can build a dashboard. It really gives sense what you're saying. I think that.
And also if it's something that solves your specific issues, right? Yeah. Like I sometimes build my own little tools for something that only I do in the organization because I wouldn't take the dev's time to do it. And if it breaks, who cares? I can just do it the old way. But if you put something out to 1,000 employees and put it in their hands, then you don't want to be responsible for it being up and running 24/7, right? You want someone else to take care of that.
And it's your brand as well.
Exactly.
Damage your brand. Great, Greg. It's so great to have you here. Where can people find out more about you, Monotree? Where's the best place to go?
I would say you can just always add me on LinkedIn. I'm there pretty frequently. You can also write gregers@monotree.com. Yeah. It's not a secret email. People are more than welcome to do that. So, and just read any questions or anything. I like to talk to people in the industry and stuff. Yeah. So, more than
great. We'll put all that in the show notes.
Thank you for having me.
Power and energy for the journey ahead.
Yeah. Thank you. Likewise, Michael. It was a pleasure.